Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into designing a flawless legal compliance strategy, specifically focusing on how you track total monetary losses resulting from labor law violations and employment discrimination. We are decoding the exact SASB standard for the restaurant industry here. This is absolutely crucial knowledge for anyone looking to align their tracking systems with modern sustainability accounting standards. So let's get right into it.
We all know the food and beverage sector moves at lightning speed, right? In that high-stakes environment, a simple, everyday dispute over scheduling or wages can snowball really fast. When that dispute officially crosses the line into a formal legal proceeding and you take a financial hit, well, how you account for that isn't just some internal bookkeeping chore. It's a strict regulatory mandate. The whole goal here is to give stakeholders and investors total transparency into workforce mismanagement.
If we look at the broader SASB sustainability accounting standard for restaurants, you'll spot several metrics dealing with things like turnover rates and minimum wage. But for our purposes today, we are zeroing in on one very specific code, FBRN 310A.3. This is the exact metric that dictates how your entity has to report its legal financial liabilities regarding the workforce.
Okay, here is our compliance roadmap for this explainer. 1. The restaurant labor landscape. 2. Defining the compliance mandate. 3. Identifying qualifying legal violations. 4. Calculating total monetary losses. 5. Defining scope and boundaries. And 6. Reporting context and corrections.
Section 1. The restaurant labor landscape, understanding the context.
Let's set the stage. The restaurant sector is intensely labor-driven, leaning heavily on hourly, part-time, and seasonal workers. Because of that dynamic, tracking your turnover and wage rates is basically a prerequisite to understanding your legal risk. But here is the real complication: the franchising model. You've got these massive global chains, which makes enforcing consistent labor standards incredibly tricky. Why? Because the worker making the food might actually be employed by a third-party franchisee, not your main corporate entity. It's a complex web.
Moving on to Section 2. Defining the compliance mandate, the FBRN 310A3 metric. This mandate dictates that your entity must disclose the total monetary losses incurred during the reporting period stemming directly from legal actions. At its core, this is a strictly quantitative metric, reported in your local currency. And listen, precision is everything here. You literally cannot just estimate these figures. They have to be meticulously tracked, aggregated, and verified across your entire operation for that specific time frame.
So what counts as a legal action? The standard casts a really wide net. It covers any adjudicative proceeding involving your business. We're not just talking about those high-profile civil lawsuits that end up in front of a jury. If a government regulatory body slaps you with an enforcement action, that counts. If a dispute is quietly handled behind closed doors by an arbitrator, yep, that counts too. It's designed to capture the whole spectrum of legal enforcement.
Section 3. Identifying qualifying legal violations. Two distinct categories.
To actually comply with the standard, you have to funnel all these legal proceedings into two highly specific buckets. Bucket number 1 is labor violations. This strictly covers operational, day-to-day enforcement of employment law right there on the restaurant floor. We're talking unpaid overtime, denied rest breaks, things like that. Say, for example, employees allege they were forced to work off the clock to clean up after a shift, and it results in a financial loss through a legal proceeding. That falls squarely in this bucket.
Bucket number 2 is employment discrimination. And this one protects against biases related to protected classes, age, race, gender, disability, you name it. It captures any legal proceeding arising from accusations of discriminatory practices. Whether it's bias in hiring, firing, or general workplace treatment based on someone's religion or genetic information, any monetary loss tied to those civil rights violations has to be explicitly tracked right here.
All right, Section 4. Calculating total monetary losses, the formula.
Now, with our violations categorized, how do we actually calculate the final dollar amount? This is where a lot of internal compliance systems trip up. Here's the critical boundary you need to remember. You absolutely must include payouts to the opposing party, your settlements, fines, civil judgments, restitution. But you have to completely exclude your own legal defense fees. Why is that? Because this standard is measuring the severity of the legal penalty itself, not the cost of your legal team. So even though those massive hourly attorney fees feel like a huge loss, they do not count towards this specific sustainability metric.
Section 5. Defining scope and boundaries, where the rules apply.
To get an accurate number, your tracking scope must encapsulate both entity-owned locations and franchise locations. Now, I know that's a massive compliance challenge, but it is explicitly required. Think about it. Customer perception doesn't distinguish between a corporate-owned flagship and a franchise off the highway. If a major labor violation hits the evening news, the entire brand takes the hit. Because of that, your tracking systems must encompass the enforcement of laws across your entire global operational footprint. No exceptions.
Finally, Section 6, Reporting Context and Corrections Beyond the Numbers.
You can't just hand over a spreadsheet with raw data. The SASB standard demands qualitative context. This boils down to a 3-step narrative requirement. Step 1. Describe the nature of the loss. Was it a settlement, a deferred prosecution? Step 2. Explain the context. Was it a case of systemic unfair compensation? And Step 3, the big one. Detail your corrective actions. Investors don't just want the dollar amount. They want to understand your risk profile and see how you're actively fixing the problem.
What do those corrective actions look like? Well, the standard requires you to outline exactly how you're stopping this legal loss from happening again. That could mean overhauling management protocols, rolling out brand new compliance training, or maybe even implementing new technology to digitally track meal breaks. It could even mean cutting ties with a business partner or franchisee who refused to play by the rules. Whatever the fix is, your disclosure needs to shine a light on those specific operational changes.
Tracking total monetary losses resulting from labor violations is so much more than an accounting exercise. It is a profound measure of how a brand manages its human capital. So, as we wrap up, consider your own internal systems for a second. Are they robust enough to pull in data from a third-party franchise while simultaneously filtering out your own legal defense fees? If a multi-million-dollar class action hit your network tomorrow, would your sustainability report reflect the objective truth, or do you have compliance gaps just waiting to be exposed? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.